Are we on? Yeah?
Yeah.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. And the team news should be out in 5 minutes, if that, less than 5 minutes. As I usually do, I've looked at the newspapers to see what they're predicting. I'll go with the Independent first. They've gone with David De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Bailey, Maguire and Telles. They've got Telles at left back. And they've got Matic and Pogba in the midfield. I wouldn't have thought it was Matic and Pogba's turn. They seem to be taking turns each per game at the minute. Matic and Pogba one game, and McTominay and Fred the next. And then they've got Bruno at number 10. They've got Greenwood, Marshall and Rashford. So that's the Independent. Then I always look at 4. And after I've looked at 4, including the Independent, the Evening News, the Mirror and the Standard, 3 of the 4 newspapers had the exact same lineup. That's not happened before. So because 3 out of 4 had the exact same lineup, I also looked at the Sun. And when I clicked on the Sun have also got the exact same lineup. So 4 different newspapers, the Sun, the Manchester Evening News, the Mirror and the Standard, have all got United lining up like this. And it does make me wonder, have they got inside information when they've all got it exactly the same? So the 4 newspapers that are the same have got De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Bailey, Maguire and Shaw, whereas the Independent have got Telles at left back. Then they've got McTominay and Fred, as opposed to Matic and Pogba. They've got Bruno at number 10, and they've all got Dan James in, alongside Marshall and Rashford. So that's the Sun, the Manchester News, the Mirror, and the Evening Standard have all got Dan James in the starting lineup, as opposed to Greenwood in the Independent. So very shortly now, we will find out what that is literally a minute or so before 7 o'clock. I was discussing earlier, anybody who saw the show earlier, about whether Matic might get a game. I think Matic has played really well against Everton, and then against who do we play tonight? Wolves. I think Matic has played really well in those 2 games, but he does seem to be operating them as pairs. I've looked at this today. Against Sheffield United, this is in order, by the way. Some people said to me that it's because of the opposition. It might be a point that it's something to do with the opposition, but it's a hell of a coincidence that it's game by game that the opposition seems to suit a certain pairing. So against Sheffield United, it was Matic and Pogba. Then the next game was against Leeds. It was McTominay and Fred. Then the next game was it Leicester? Who else have we played recently? Leeds, Leicester, Everton in the League Cup. It was back to Matic and Pogba. Then Leicester, it was back to McTominay and Fred. Then Wolves, and it was back to Matic and Pogba. So for 5 games in a row, it's literally changed from 2 to 2 to different pair, or the 2 pairs have interchanged. For 5 games in a row. Seems a little bit too coincidental to me that that's taking into account who the opposition are, how the opposition play. I mean, they're all good teams. Matic and Pogba, for example, have played against Everton, who Everton are playing at the moment. The last I saw it was 0-0. But Everton are literally a point or 2 behind, I think 1 point behind us in the table. All right, it was a Carling Cup game, but they fielded a full-strength team. And Matic and Pogba played in that game. Then we played Wolves the other night. We hardly ever beat Wolves. Before the other night, we'd beaten them once in 7 attempts. So Matic and Pogba are playing against equally difficult opponents. They might have different styles of play, whereas McTominay and Fred have played against Leicester and played against Leeds. And if I'm honest, I know it's easy in hindsight when we've won 6-2. If I'm honest, out of those 4 fixtures, despite the fact that everyone's talking about how much they've run, I would have thought that Leeds was perhaps the one fixture out of those games that you might have thought that we would win.
Teams out.
Come on, let's have it.
De Gea.
Yeah.
Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah.
Bailey and Maguire.
Yeah.
Shaw.
Yeah.
McTominay and Fred.
Thought it would be. Yeah.
Pogba.
Oh, Pogba as well. Wow.
Pogba as well. Fernandes.
Yeah.
Marshall and Rashford.
Right, that's very interesting. Right, that is interesting. So how will that line up? Well,
how's he going to do that? It's going to be...
It's like a diamond, I think, isn't it? McTominay at the base of it, Fred to the right, Pogba to the left, Bruno at 10.
Could be like a diamond, or it could be Rashford on the right-hand side and Pogba on the left.
Yes.
McTominay and Fred in the middle, Fred behind Marshall.
Yeah.
Couldn't it?
Fred behind Marshall. What do you mean by that?
Sorry, not Fred
Bruno.
behind Marshall. Bruno behind Marshall. Excuse me.
Yeah. It could well be that. Like Pogba actually played wide on the left, didn't he, against City?
Yes.
So
same type of shape is what I'm talking about, but rather than Greenwood on the right, Rashford on the right, and Marshall in at 9,
and Pogba to the left. Yeah, it could be. It'd be very interesting to see.
It'd be strange for him to go back to a diamond, wouldn't it? We've not had much success with the diamond, have we? That's not worked.
That's true. You've got a good point. Just looking at the midfield players that have been selected, I know lots of people who are watching already know my feelings about Matic, but we've had four midfield players competing for the 2 spots, as I was just talking about. And for 5 weeks in a row, it's been McTominay and Fred, and then the next week it's been games in a row, I should say, rather than weeks in a row, because they're playing midweek and weekend, aren't they? So 5 games in a row, it's swapped from McTominay and Fred to Pogba and Matic, back to McTominay and Fred to Pogba and Matic. So tonight, 3 of them are getting a game, and to me, I'm not worried about saying it. Against Everton and against Wolves, two of the last three games, Matic to me was the pick. Matic has been the best player out of the 4. So suddenly he picks 3 of them instead of 2 of them, and Matic is the one who loses out. And I really don't get it. I know they've got different strengths. I know they've got different styles of play. But Matic is left out of the team, and all 3 of the other midfield players get a game. We've spoke before about games like Spurs at Old Trafford, where he literally played virtually on his own because the other players were all bombing forward. So Matic seems to be getting a raw deal, I think. And now tonight we should be brilliant in midfield because we've got 3 midfield players in there. Not necessarily because of who they are, but because obviously they're all good players. But Matic has regularly turned out with one of those players playing next to him, and never with 2 of them. I can't think of an instance where he's played with 2 of those players. So tonight we should be all right in midfield if it is like that. McTominay, Fred and Pogba. Marshall and Rashford. I think Marshall's got to be at 9 tonight, hasn't he? I think Rashford will be. I think you're right. I think Rashford will be to the right and Pogba to the left. So I can't wait to see that.
Be interesting to see if it does line up like that.
Yeah.
Whether Rashford takes to the defensive side of the game as well as Greenwood perform that role.
Yes.
Greenwood was quite diligent in his.
Well, Grealish is operating from the left really for Villa, like he does quite a lot. There's going to be a little bit of work to do up and down that line. You can't really just leave him to Wan-Bissaka to take care of.
No.
Especially if the full-back's getting forward as well. Wan-Bissaka will have his hands full. So if Rashford's to the right, he's going to have to do his work tonight, big time. Yeah, big time. Anybody coming through on there?
Yeah, there's a couple of people asking. Samuel I saying that Ricky Matic can't play every game, can't play twice in 4 days.
Yeah, perhaps it might be a point. Yeah, I do appreciate that, but I just think that sometimes I'm sure there's lots of players out there playing for other clubs who are 32 or more that are playing every week. I'm sure there are, and I know it's just a common concept really amongst United fans that it's too old. I mean, there was a rumour knocking about today that Mata was going to start. By the way, not that I didn't start that rumour. I heard it later after I'd done my show. Did my show today, and I thought Mata might have got a game on the right because he's not been happy with Greenwood. He keeps subbing in. He's not been happy with James. Whenever he gets a start, he subs in. They never get a full game. Dan James did against Leeds, but it was 6-2, wasn't it? It was 4-1 at half time. There was no, he subbed Rashford and he subbed Bruno. There was no need to sort of sub him. Had it been 0-0 or 1-1 after an hour, Dan James probably would have got. It's almost like clockwork the way he does it. You know who the players who are going to come off if it ain't going well. So he's not been happy with the right hand side. I thought Juan Mata might have got a game on the right, and then lo and behold, I heard later on that there was after I'd said it, by the way, there was a little bit of a rumour that he would be starting, but obviously he's not. Have you got the sub bench there? Is he on the sub bench?
Here, yeah. Broccoli Ben saying, I look at it more that James or Greenwood missed out today, not Matic. Matic was never going to start.
Yeah.
Which I can see what he means. There is that rotation, isn't there? It's just not his turn today, as ridiculous as that is.
Yeah. Does that mean he will play against City next week in the Carabao Cup?
Perhaps it does.
Some people might say it's only the Carabao Cup, but you can't think like that. He's desperate to get through. Ollie has said numerous times that he's absolutely desperate to win a trophy, any trophy. He will be desperate to get through that game next week.
Subs bench, Henderson, Telles, Twanzebe, James, Lingard, Mata, Matic, Van der Beek, Greenwood.
Right, very strong bench. Very strong bench. What's Van der Beek got to do to get a start?
God knows.
Yeah. I know what the lad's on about there, about maybe Matic can't start every week, but I just think I actually think it's a bit of a myth. I really do. Why should Matic be any different to other players in the league who are 32, 33, 34, even older than that, and playing every week? So I don't get it really. Anybody else on?
A few things coming in. People saying that that Matic is being kept for the City game.
Yeah. Could be interesting.
Yeah, could be.
Be double interesting if he doesn't play in that game though now. But go on.
Sedan looks like Pogba will play left wing today. Thoughts on that, Ricky?
Yeah, I'm not completely sold on him as a wide left player, but he did well enough against City. But it was more of a disciplined game against City where he was sitting back really, not getting forward a lot. The same with Greenwood on the other side. In a game like this, but look, you shouldn't underestimate Villa. I mean, if they happen to win Villa tonight, I just said this in a tweet earlier. If Villa happen to win tonight, they'll be a point behind us with a game in hand on us.
Yeah.
So you cannot underestimate them. This is a right tough game.
Absolutely.
It's a right tough game. So maybe he has got that job of tracking back and making sure he's not got caught too far ahead of the ball.
Ryan Tooley makes a good point. He's back to the Matic thing. The Matic thing seems to be the hot topic. But Matic is elegant and takes his body in and out of the game just like Carrick did.
Yeah. Matic has got some semblances of how Carrick played the game. I'm not going to say he was as good as Carrick. Carrick was a wonderful, wonderful footballer. Matic is class though.
Yeah.
He is class, and he's a bit bigger, a bit stronger, and he's left-footed.
Yeah.
Different aspects.
6-pointer tonight, Red Olsen says.
It is a 6-pointer tonight. Massive. I've just said where they'll get to if they beat us. I mean, obviously we're only looking up the table, but when people are on your coattails, maybe you should look down a little bit more often. So if they beat us, they move to a point behind us with a game in hand. But if we beat them, we're 7 points in front of them with a game. It's a massive, massive difference.
Yeah. Dan Mazing. Should Ighalo get a game with Cavani out and Marshall and Rashford as wingers?
He's not even on the bench, Ighalo, is he?
No, he seems to be completely bombed out, doesn't he?
Completely bombed out. I was impressed by him when he played. And I know loads of people said he didn't do it when he got a game in the league. I'm not sure. You need a little bit more time. I mean, I can't remember now, but I've seen him get like 5 minutes in and 5 minutes there in the league. And then I know in the League Cup and the Europa League when he was scoring some goals and some really good goals as well. I know it's inferior opposition, but you have a knack for playing that position. You have a knack for being in the right spot at the right time. And I just think he's had a bit of a raw deal. I don't know why they've kept him. They obviously didn't know they were going to get Cavani when they got him. But I do honestly think that Ighalo has not had a chance to show what he can do. And I don't think he's been as bad as some people are making out when he did get the odd. And when I say the odd game, I mean the odd 10 minutes here and the odd 15 minutes there. That's all he would get.
It's been really limited, hasn't it?
Yeah. And I really thought he was all right when he played. But he's not had a chance to show it. And I don't know if they can get rid of. They might as well get rid of him in January.
Yeah.
I mean, Cavani, Marshall, Rashford. I know, obviously wingers, but it means that Cavani and Marshall can operate the centre forward, but for the flanks we've got Dan James, we've got Juan Mata, we've got Rashford. A lot of people saying Van der Beek could play wide right. I'm not convinced by that, but we've got lots of options for the front line, and well, you just hit the nail right on the head. By the way, no Cavani tonight, and Igalo's not even on the bench.
Yeah,
so they might as well just if they can get rid of him in January. I think they should.
Yeah.
And I'm not having a go at the lad, by the way, or about him as a player. You know what I mean? I'm really not. What's the point of him being there?
Yeah.
What's the point of him being there?
I mean, it's funny because of the shape that we play these days. Obviously, we're playing number 9s in wide positions all the time, and really they should be midfield players, but we're using those positions to afford game time to players that otherwise would be probably third and fourth choice for that number 9 role.
Yeah.
Because there's only room for one number 9 in the shape that we play.
Yes.
And obviously we call the number 10 out of a 4-4-2 if it's like that. He's always going to be Bruno, and then you've got Van der Beek and Pogba who also want to try and compete for that position.
Yeah.
So you really only have got one centre forward berth, and it's the natural position of about 5 players. Cavani probably being he's obviously the most reputable. He's the most. I would say he's the best number 9 that we've got.
He's scored more goals than anybody in Europe apart from Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah, his CV speaks for itself.
So
and
Cavani's a number 9.
Then Marshall's
a number 9.
Rashford, Greenwood,
number 9.
Igalo. It's like 5 players for one position.
Yeah,
obviously, there's no room to get them all in, so they're getting accommodated in wide positions, but I believe it's to our detriment. Where can Donny van der Beek fit into the team, Ricky?
Well,
MP7.
He can't, I don't think. I keep hearing Mark say on the United stand that he can play wide right. He'd make a decent fist of it if you played him at centre half. He looks a quality footballer to me. But I've got no doubt in my mind that his best position is number 10. He can play in midfield, he could play wide right, you could play him wide left, he'll make a decent fist of it. But his best position, I've got no doubt, is number 10. Bruno's playing at number 10, he's banging goals in for fun. How's he going to get in? You can't fit him in.
No.
And if you're fitting him in, like you've just spoken about, we're shoehorning, like Greenwood's been left out tonight, hasn't he? And I'm not surprised, because I don't think he's doing particularly well, Greenwood. I really don't.
No, I'd agree with that.
But he is playing out of position. He's not a right winger. You know, I'm not sold on Rashford. I know he's scoring loads of goals, but I don't think he's playing great as a left winger.
No, he's not.
I like wingers who get good balls into the box.
Yes.
In fact, I'll watch for that tonight. I'll make a note of it. I'm going to watch tonight, and because obviously we just spoke about what position he'll play. You know, if he'll probably go and get 3 assists tonight now. But I'll watch for Marcus Rashford putting good balls into the box tonight. That's what I'll watch for. And usually, you're lucky if it's one a game, I think. And I want my wingers getting good balls into the box.
I mean, obviously, you've got to look at the statistics of forward players, the assists and the goals that they get. But I do think at times it's all too convenient to just hold up those statistics as vindication of someone's performances.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you play for a team that create X amount of chances as a team, and you score Y amount of goals, United tend to get 65 to 80 goals a season for the last 20 years.
Something like that. Yeah.
If you play in an advanced position for a club like that, you will and get a lot of minutes. You will just get goals naturally.
Yeah,
it will just happen.
You've got to have that ability to be able to be somebody who gets that amount of minutes. You've got to have that ability, but you just need a bit more from me. You need. From what I see, you've got to be able to get good balls into the box regularly if you're playing in a wide role.
What I'm saying is that you're right. You need to justify the minutes that you're awarded as a player, but you should be justifying them by your all-round play, not just by your goals and assist stats.
Yes, I agree.
Because as an advanced player, you're always going to get you're going to get chances and score goals. It's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's your score prediction, Ricky?
Now that I've seen the team, I don't like predictions, as you know, but everybody always asks you. So I'll have a guess I'll go 2-1 for United.
Yeah.
2-1.
Tormund 638. Hi, Rick. In my opinion, Matic should have been given the armband as he's the best and most consistent, experienced midfielder. What do you think?
I think he's one of our best players. I think he's our best midfield player.
Oh, he's Jinder Mahal on Twitter. If you probably recognise him by his Twitter name, Solomon.
Right. Yeah. I think he's just a top class player, Matic, and I think he's proved it in the last 2 weeks with the 2 games that he played. I think he ran the game at Everton, and I won't be too far short of saying that against Wolves as well. He was the player in focus. He was voted the player in focus on our channel, wasn't he? And I did a programme on him, and watching to do that, I watched the game again, but I don't watch the game. I watch him, and in that game, he hardly put a foot wrong. He was absolutely superb. By the way, no disrespect to other players. Look, when you're talking about how a player plays, all you can do is compare him to other players. So I'm not having a go at other players. I'm just telling you how it is.
Yeah.
I've watched that game studiously, and Matic hardly put a foot wrong, and Pogba did lots of things wrong. Plenty of things, 5, 6, 7 things poorly.
Yeah.
And yet Pogba's kept his place, and Matic has been. It might be, look, what the lad who said earlier. It may be that they think he's 32. He's got to have a rest, and Pogba's younger. Some people might come on and say, "Oh, Pogba's world class." Don't care if he's world class. He's not world class to me. Doing 5, 6, 7 things wrong in a game, poor things as well. Some of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I like people getting it right.
Yeah. There's another level to it as well when it comes to these experienced players getting left out of the team, which I don't think gets spoken about anywhere near enough. And it's the example that you're setting for the younger lads in the club. So Mata and Matic have both been around and had fantastic careers, and by all accounts have been fantastic pros throughout. Yeah. Do you not want to put those players on a pedestal and have them as part of your team, so that the young lads who are coming through have got something to look up to and something to aspire to?
You couldn't ask for 2 better professionals than one Mata and the Nemanja Matic to have your young players looking at and saying, if you can have a career like these lads.
Yeah. And you're actually almost throwing it in the faces by not picking them, because you're demonstrating to the younger lads that even if you behave like a fantastic pro, you're still not going to get game time. You can just get game time for for being a flash in the pan or whatever you might consider some of our other players.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Shaw starting over Tellez, Rick? I prefer Shaw myself.
Yeah, I prefer Shaw. I think he's stronger. I think he's a little bit quicker. His decision making is a bit better. Tellez, obviously, everybody talks about his attacking prowess. He got into 4 or 5, maybe even 6 good crossing positions in the first half the other night. I don't think he put one decent cross in, or one good cross, I should say. Maybe one good one and a couple of poor ones and a couple of decent ones. I don't see him getting in ahead of Shaw. I really don't. I'm not surprised Shaw starting. And last week, or I should say the other night, Tuesday night, I predicted, by the way, I should have brought this up earlier, anybody who was watching the other night, I sat here when the team came out and I predicted that Tellez wouldn't last 70 minutes and that Luke Shaw would be on for him. So anybody that saw that last week would probably have noticed it, that he got subbed at half-time, Tellez. So since I predicted that on Tuesday, I don't think Luke Shaw will get substituted tonight, unless either A, he's injured, or B, the game's been put to bed. If we're 3-0 down, he might take 3-0 up, I should say. Please God, we're not 3-0 down. If we're 3-0 up, something like that, he might take him off to give Tellez a run out. But if it's a tight game, I don't see Luke Shaw getting replaced tonight. He'll play the full 90 minutes.
There's a few questions here about Van der Beek and about the position. What's his strongest position? Obviously, you've said Yusuf here says Van der Beek. You say Van der Beek is a number 10, but he's more known for off-the-ball runs rather than a creator. Our problem is we don't have creativity in the double pivot. I wouldn't be as opposed to seeing Van der Beek play in a midfield too, proper midfield. Forget, if you still had Bruno at number 10, I wouldn't be anywhere near as opposed to seeing Van der Beek play in a midfield too. If we had a right and left-sided midfield player playing,
yes,
as opposed to number 9s
playing on the wings,
doing.
I know exactly where you're coming from. if you've got Van der Beek playing as a natural midfield player, say next to Matic or next to McTominay or next to Fred, can't include Pogba because he's another attacking style player.
Yes.
Although he has been a bit more disciplined lately. But let's say Pogba, whether you've got Matic, Fred, McTominay or Pogba as one player, and then you've got Van der Beek next to that player, Van der Beek has definitely he's got a nose for goal, hasn't he? He likes to get in and around the edge of the box.
Yeah.
And likes to create things and likes to get on the end of things as well. Or so I'm told from his Ajax days. And what I've seen, I've watched him play for Holland a couple of times, and he's sometimes the furthest forward player, like Bruno is. He's a proper number 10. So you can't take that out of his game, I don't think. So if he's going to play as one or two midfield players, I know where you're coming from. If your wide players are, say, Rashford and Greenwood, who are natural forwards, you're sometimes going to vacate the midfield. And let's just say, well, as I spoke about before, it's often Matic when somebody gets hung out to dry. It's often Matic. Yeah. So if you've got Matic there, and Van der Beek's next to him, and Van der Beek's getting forward, and your two wide men are still forward as well, you're going to be
Matic is exposed.
Yeah, exposed. You're going to leave the midfield empty. So I know a lot of people laugh at me when I say I liked it like when we played Newcastle and when we played Chelsea and we had Juan Mata on the right and we had Dan James on the left. Those two players do fill in properly. They might not be as good as Rashford. They might not be well, I think they are as it happens, but they might not be as good as Rashford. They might not be as good as Greenwood, but they do the role properly. And the midfield four would often be a midfield four. So what you're saying, and I agree with you, is if Van der Beek plays as a midfield player, there's no way in the world you could play Rashford and Greenwood because you're going to have two in midfield, and when Van der Beek gets forward, it's only going to be one. At least with two wide men who get back properly, you've got the bodies in there, haven't you? You've got the four bodies across the park.
Correct. You're not going to be exposed if he does commit himself too often.
Yeah.
Ryan Tooler, looking forward to a good old-fashioned Scottish battle tonight between McGinn and McTominay. What about you, Rick?
What I've seen of that McGinn, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah.
He looks an absolutely class player. Who did he play the other day? He had a shot against the bar. Can't remember who it was now, but I watched him play the other day. And I've also watched him play for Scotland. I think he's brilliant. I think Villa have got some top players. It's going to be a tough game. Whether McTominay and McGinn will be directly against each other so much, I'm not so sure, but it could well be. McGinn does like to play a little bit left and McTominay a little bit right for us. So they might be battling it out with each other.
As are in the comments, Stephen Haslett.
Hello, Az. How are you, mate?
Roger Mack would go off if it was raining for the strollers.
Roger Mack, yeah, if it was raining. I hope you're all right, mate.
MP7 talked about something which you've spoke about before. You did a video on Shape not long ago. But these MP7 saying Rashford mostly impact games against team playing a high line as he's good at getting in behind defences. Yeah. What he needs to add to his game is become more influential against teams defending deep.
Yeah.
You did a show on this, didn't you, not long ago, talking about how we've got players who've got pace, but we're not even using that to our advantage because we're trying to get them in behind.
Yeah.
From advanced positions as opposed to from deeper positions when you've got a bigger gap to exploit behind their back four.
Yeah, correct. I think your players with pace, when you're dominating a game, you've got forwards with pace. It can still be handy, of course it can, but it can also be nullified for great patches of the game when they're sat back. If you've got a team that come out against you and they're coming up to somewhere near the halfway line, there's a lot of space behind that you can knock a ball into and they can use their pace. The deeper that a defence lies, somewhere near the 18-yard line, there's no space behind, they knock a ball through. This is why I often have a go. Loads of people won't wear it, but I often have a go about Pogba trying that ball over the top too often. I have a go about Bruno trying that ball over the top too often. It's so difficult to get that ball right when the defence is deep. It's okay when the defence is up and there's loads of space to knock it into, but when the defence is deep, you've got to drop it over that defence and they've got to get onto it before the keeper can get out and get it, or before a defender. Look, if it's not perfect, a defender will head it anyway. You've got such a small target area. You've got to drop it just over the defenders for the runners to get onto it, and it's so difficult to get right. It's ridiculous. We'll probably score from one of them tonight now. But look, it can happen. Of course it can. But just trying it too often.
It's the percentages.
It's the percentages. When a defence is deep, you need to try and get the ball through along the floor to players, or you need to try and get it wide and get it across the face of the goal. The little balls over the top, when they're sat back, I won't say impossible. I won't even say they're almost impossible. That's stretching it a bit. But they're just so difficult to get right. They're not worth trying so often. They're really not.
Thomas638 with another smart comment. Rick, the way we play with 2 or 3 nines, I feel this can only be suitable if we play with a fully functional, dogged midfield, i.e. Matic, Fred and Scott, similar to Liverpool. Well spotted.
Well spotted, mate. Great shout. Yeah, Liverpool have got 3 forwards. And look at the midfield players that they've got. Henderson, Wijnaldum, Thiago if he plays, Fabinho if he plays in midfield,
Milner if he plays.
They're all what I call proper midfield players. None of them are flamboyant. None of them score particularly lots of goals. None of them even get lots of assists. They just work hard. They get the ball on the floor. They pass it to each other, and they try and get it wide to the full-backs. That's why Liverpool's full-backs have got so many assists. Obviously, they're good players. But they're looking to give it to the full-backs. They're looking to get them into dangerous positions for them to get the ball across the face of the goal. And that's how a lot of Liverpool goals come.
It's functioning as a proper engine room, isn't it?
Yeah, it's functioning as an engine room, and they're playing as a team.
If we were to do that, though, it would mean Bruno being dropped out of that, I think.
Or he'd have to be one of the 3 forwards.
Yes.
He'd have to be one of them. Because he's playing so far up.
Yeah.
He does play so far up. I mean, how you'd fit that in, I don't know as well, but that's another discussion,
Obviously,
isn't it?
We've heard so many people, he's suggested quite often that perhaps we should give a game to Van der Beek in the Mata role on that right-hand side. How would you feel about seeing Bruno playing that role and Van der Beek at 10?
I'd love to see him give it a try. I'd love to see him.
I think I'd prefer to see Bruno in the on the right than Van der Beek. I just think Van der Beek can be so influential in how we keep the ball moving around simply because he loves that 1 and 2 touch stuff. And Bruno from the right can maybe, I don't know, can be less of a risk to us in how he turns possession over us often.
You saw Ollie's comment that was somebody retweeted the other day, but Ollie said the other day that Bruno was always involved in making lots of chances. It's just a shame that most of them were for them, or something like that. He said after the Wolves game. He said, and this will happen occasionally. I don't know. I don't get it, but there you go.
Couple more questions. Ricky, who do you rate more between Victor and Maguire? Like if we were to get a new centre back, who would he be playing next to?
There's not a lot in it. I don't think. I used to give Maguire dog's abuse, as a lot of people will know, but he has grown into being a Man United player. He's not as bad as I first said he was. He's not an £80 million centre-back, though, nothing like, and never will be. I don't care what anyone says. I'll also stick by my original comment. I think Chris Smalling was vastly underrated, and I really still believe that he's equally as good, if not better. And I think £80 million to make a sideways move, in my opinion, was a bit of definitely a waste of money.
Yeah.
But he is doing okay. I'm not knocking. He's doing okay. He's improving, and I think Maguire and Lindelof get a little bit too much stick. They sometimes get exposed. Well, not sometimes. They often get exposed because we haven't got enough midfield players. I hear people saying they should be able to manage. No team in the world manages well if they haven't got a proper team shape. We've just spoke about Liverpool's midfield there. Liverpool, I know he's injured at the minute. Van Dijk's possibly the best centre-half in the world. But when Liverpool are defending, whenever they do have to defend, they've got 3 proper midfield players in front of that back 4. Proper midfield players. Whether it's, I think when they're at full strength, it's probably Henderson, Wijnaldum, Henderson, Wijnaldum and Fabinho, I think. I mean, Fabinho's playing centre-back at the minute. But there's 3 proper, solid, defensive-type midfield players. And then people... And that's in front of the best centre-back in the world.
Yeah.
And then people say Maguire should be able to manage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not... should we have one more? I think it's 7:30 gone. Time to get sat in front of the TV.
Had to pick one out here.
Oh, there's a load. Sorry about
Just
that.
a few comments.
If you've got a question in there, and we
Here's one, which is interesting. Reuptaken TV. Do we need a Kanchelskis type player for the right? Interesting that, because I've sometimes compared Dan James to Kanchelskis, and I know it's a stretch. Kanchelskis was a wonderful player. Yeah.
Great goal scorer as well. He's a fantastic player.
But Dan James definitely hasn't been given the opportunity to show what he's capable of over a prolonged period yet. You don't know what he could develop into given time.
I thought he was doing well last season. I don't look. Kanchelskis really was fantastic. I don't think Dan James is ever going to be Kanchelskis. But who asked that question, by the way?
That was Reuptaken TV.
Okay. So. Despite the fact that I've just said what a wonderful player Kanchelskis was, and he was a wonderful player, the most important facet of his game was his pace. And Dan James, the most important facet of his game is his pace. So maybe we've already got one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe we've already got one. Not as good, but where are you going to find one as good?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe we've already got one. Maybe he should be getting a little bit more game time to show what he can do.
Yeah. I think if... obviously, the way that Rashford has been so hit and miss for us, and yet
Rashford's supposed to be pacey. Couldn't Rashford play on the right, Marshall on the left, and Cavani at 9? That's what I wouldn't mind seeing.
Yeah,
sorry,
perhaps.
Go on.
All I was going to say is that with some of these players, I can't. When they're not performing, you can't help but feel like there's some favouritism there with how they stick by them and just persist with them and give them time to prove themselves. And yet with other players, they don't get afforded that opportunity. Yeah.
It's funny how it falls sometimes, though. The other night against Wolves, after an hour, I had a sub Marcus Rashford, and he ends up getting the winner. So, the thing is, though, it's easy saying that. If you had a sub in, you don't know if we might have scored anyway. We might have scored before that. It's just, you don't know, dear.
No, you don't.
You just don't know. Right, okay, that's that for tonight. Obviously, massive game. I hope we get the 3 points. Got to be right on their coattails still by the time we play them. We could obviously the Burnley game has been rescheduled now, hasn't it?
Yes.
For the Tuesday before we play Liverpool. So if we can win tonight and win against Burnley, absolute worst ways we will be level with Liverpool when we play them. If they drop any points, meantime we'd be above them. But don't take that I'm assuming that we're going to win those games. I'm saying if. I'm not assuming we're going to beat Villa. I'm not assuming we're going to beat Burnley. They'll both be tough games. But if we can win them both, we'll be going to Anfield at least level with Liverpool. Bring it on. I hope you've enjoyed that show. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe. Please tell all your friends. If you didn't enjoy it, keep stum. Don't tell anyone.